Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today we're plunging into a really fascinating guide. It's penned by David Michaels. The book's called When a Man Makes Love to a Woman.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't let that title fool you entirely. It isn't just about, the physical act.
Not at all.
It's more like a roadmap to richer intimacy. For both men and women, actually. It explores these intricate connections between our minds, our bodies, and even our spiritual selves.
Yeah, it's quite comprehensive.
We've got a really wide range of material from this book. It covers everything from the nitty-gritty of enhancing sexual experiences
Right.
to the deeper emotional, psychological layers, and even touches on spiritual aspects of connection.
It really tries to cover all the bases.
So our mission today,
Mm-hmm.
sift through these pages, pull out the most insightful, most actionable bits of wisdom.
Like a shortcut.
Exactly. Your shortcut to understanding the core principles and maybe some surprising details David Michaels lays out.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, let's unpack this. So the author really kicks things off by emphasizing a holistic approach to good sex. It's not just about techniques themselves, is it?
Absolutely not. What's fascinating right off the bat is his strong belief that, truly fulfilling intimacy isn't just about the mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
It's built on a much more solid foundation that includes the overall relationship, the mindset of both partners, the environment you create, individual spiritual beliefs, even your pre-existing ideas about sex. He makes this point, says the specific methods he talks about later, they're really just the icing on the cake.
Right.
The foundation has to be there first.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like trying to, fine-tune an engine that isn't even properly installed yet.
Exactly.
And he specifically mentions trust within the relationship. That seems fundamental to this holistic view.
Yeah.
How does that play in?
Trust, according to him, is absolutely key. Crucial.
Okay.
It creates that safe space,
Yeah,
where both partners feel comfortable enough to really open up, explore together.
makes sense.
He suggests, for example, a woman might be much more willing to try new things if she deeply trusts her partner. That trust makes her feel secure enough to, venture outside her comfort zone.
But there's a downside, too.
Well, yeah. He points out it's kind of a double-edged sword. If that trust gets broken, it can be incredibly difficult, maybe even impossible to rebuild. And it can cause, significant lasting damage to the relationship.
That's a powerful point. And speaking of building connection and trust, there's this actions not words principle he emphasizes, particularly aimed at men, it seems. What's the core message there?
The advice is pretty direct. Avoid the temptation to brag, about any newfound sexual knowledge or abilities.
Right. Don't talk a big game.
Exactly. He cautions that making these grand pronouncements can build expectations in your partner, and if those expectations aren't met, it can lead to disappointment.
Yeah, I can see that.
So instead, he really encourages demonstrating your understanding through your actions, emphasizing the journey of, shared learning and experimentation together.
So prove it, don't just say it.
Pretty much. It's about proving your knowledge through the experience itself, not just talking it up beforehand.
Right. Actions speak louder than words, especially in the bedroom, it seems. Okay, let's move into a section I found really intriguing. The power of the mind. The author draws this direct connection between our thoughts and our energy levels.
He does, and it's quite a strong claim he makes. He lays out what he sees as the 4 primary sources of energy for the body.
Okay, what are they?
Thought itself, he says, along with the more commonly recognized ones. Oxygen, food, and stored fat.
So thought is an energy source.
That's his point. What really stands out is the emphasis he puts on thought as a genuine, potent energy source, capable of both sparking and directing our overall vitality. He even makes this very bold statement, saying something like, "You will become what you think or believe."
Wow, that's a powerful idea. And he then delves into how different kinds of thoughts can specifically impact our sexual experiences, bringing up that primal fight-or-flight response.
Exactly. He explains how our bodies are basically wired to react automatically to our thoughts, whether those thoughts are based in reality or just, in our imagination.
Okay.
This triggers the release of hormones that prepare us to either confront a perceived threat or, escape from it.
Right, fight or flight.
In the context of sex, these automatic responses can stem from what he calls premeditated thoughts, habitual thoughts, or even these deeply ingrained reflexes. His point is that by cultivating a healthy mental and physical state, we can help ensure these different types of reactions are more likely to enhance rather than hinder intimacy.
So how can we consciously use these different types of thoughts to our advantage, when it comes to our intimate lives?
Well, premeditated thought, that's about consciously using positive thinking and mental reinforcement.
Okay.
This could involve using relaxation techniques to approach intimacy with an open, positive mindset, focusing your energy and attention in a way that enhances the experience, or even consciously reminding yourself of beliefs that support a positive connection.
And he connects this later on.
Yeah, later in the book, when he talks about the 8 stages of an unforgettable sexual experience, he actually links specific ways of thinking to optimizing each of those moments.
Interesting. And habitual thought.
Habitual thought is about actively working to reprogram any negative or hindering mental patterns. You do this through consistent reinforcement of more positive, supportive beliefs.
Right. Breaking bad mental habits.
Basically. And self-instinctive reactions. While they can sometimes be shaped by past negative experiences or intense conditioning, they can also be gradually adjusted over time through consistent positive reinforcement and positive experiences.
And visualization seems to play a really significant role in this mental training, doesn't it?
Absolutely crucial, according to the author. He stresses that any technique or concept you're trying to learn should be accompanied by vivid visualization.
How so?
He encourages creating a detailed mental movie of yourself successfully performing the techniques he describes, and then mentally replaying that movie over and over
Repetition.
to really create a lasting impression in your mind. He even draws a parallel to how athletes often use verbal affirmations alongside visualization to enhance their performance.
He even shares a specific technique for actively reprogramming the mind, something called the Swish Pattern, which he apparently learned from Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
That story about his friend Rob was a really compelling example.
It was quite illustrative, yeah.
Yeah.
As he describes it, the Swish pattern involves this specific mental exercise. First, you vividly picture yourself engaging in the unwanted habit
Okay.
in a situation that makes you feel embarrassed or frustrated. Then, in a very quick, almost swishing motion,
Sure.
you mentally replace that image with a highly detailed vision of yourself without the habit, being the person you've always wanted to be.
Ah, the desired outcome.
Right. You really focus on how you feel in this new scenario, how others respond to this improved version of you. The idea is to repeat this mental swish repeatedly to break the old negative association and strongly reinforce the new desired one.
And it worked for his friend.
In Rob's case, it was this uncontrollable nasal expulsion thing.
Right.
And by consistently using this technique, he reportedly managed to overcome it, which apparently had a really positive impact on his self-confidence and social interactions. It really highlights how much our mental state can influence our physical and emotional well-being.
It really does underscore that powerful connection between mind and body. Now, he also talks about the importance of freeing the mind from hindrances. Stress seems to be identified as a major obstacle.
Yes, stress is definitely presented as a significant barrier to a fulfilling sexual life.
Even if you try to ignore it.
Even if we consciously try to push it aside or ignore it, the author argues it will inevitably find its way to the surface and negatively impact our sexual performance and enjoyment. He suggests that in more severe cases, chronic stress can even contribute to issues like depression, erectile dysfunction, and just a general lack of sex drive, which can then, take a toll on our self-esteem.
And it's not just a mental issue. There are real physical consequences tied to stress, right? He brings up the fight or flight response again here.
Precisely. He explains that when we experience chronic stress, our fight or flight system stays in the state of heightened activation.
Always on.
Yeah, leading to the continuous release of hormones like adrenaline, noradrenaline, cortisol.
The stress hormones.
Right. And while these are essential for immediate survival and acute situations, prolonged exposure can have catabolic effects, meaning they break down fat and protein stores for immediate energy.
Okay.
This can also suppress essential anabolic processes in the body, things like muscle growth and repair, and crucially, he notes, the production of testosterone.
Ah, key for male sex drive.
Right, plays a vital role in male sexual health and drive. That production can also be significantly inhibited by chronic stress, making it much harder to maintain a healthy and satisfying sex life.
So effectively managing stress is clearly crucial. What about the impact of negative emotions like, say, unforgiveness and anger? How do those hinder us in this area?
The author emphasizes that unresolved negative emotions can create a very significant mental and emotional barrier to intimacy.
How so?
He suggests that unforgiveness essentially ties us to the past, preventing us from fully being present and embracing the intimacy of the current moment.
Makes sense.
He even recommends a direct approach. Consciously identify who you haven't forgiven and make a deliberate choice to forgive them, rooted in the idea that we ourselves have been offered forgiveness.
And anger.
Similarly, he argues that anger, regardless of who or what it's directed at, needs to be addressed to achieve a truly free and unhindered mind. He stresses avoiding triggers that lead to anger and preventing it from becoming, a habitual or default response.
This leads us into a somewhat unique section of the book,
Yeah.
the connection between sexuality and spirituality. The author definitely weaves his personal faith into this part of the discussion.
He does, and it's a significant aspect of his overall perspective. He posits that spirituality and sexuality are deeply intertwined, drawing upon principles from the Christian Bible. He views the sexual act within marriage as a particularly powerful spiritual act, referencing the teaching that a husband and wife become one flesh. He even suggests that God desires to be intimately involved in all aspects of our lives, including our sexual experiences within marriage.
And he also touches on the concept of soul ties from past sexual relationships. It's a fairly specific idea.
It is. The author explains that the act of sex creates this deep bond between individuals, extending beyond the emotional and physical to a spiritual level.
How does that work?
He suggests that every person you've ever had a sexual relationship with remains connected to your spirit in some way, and these past connections can potentially create hindrances or complications in your current relationships.
So what's the solution he offers?
To address this, particularly for those who identify with the Christian faith, he offers a model prayer for severing soul ties. It involves acknowledging God's forgiveness and intentionally breaking those past spiritual connections through faith and prayer.
He also presents a clear viewpoint on sexual activity outside of marriage and even on lustful thoughts.
Yes, his perspective aligns pretty closely with traditional Christian teachings. He states that any sexual activity outside the bounds of marriage is considered a sin.
Right.
He extends this to our thoughts as well, suggesting that dwelling on lustful thoughts can also be seen as sinful in God's eyes.
But there's a difference between temptation and sin.
Yes, he does make that distinction. He notes that temptation itself is often unavoidable, but it's the act of dwelling on and developing those thoughts that crosses the line into sin, in his view.
And his advice for dealing with sexual temptation is quite direct, action-oriented.
He strongly advises against trying to resist sexual temptation just through willpower alone, emphasizing how powerful these urges can be.
So what should you do?
Instead, his primary advice is to physically flee the situation as quickly as possible to avoid the possibility of succumbing to sin.
Get out of there.
Pretty much. He also references the biblical promise that God will always provide a way of escape from temptation, suggesting that our conscience, which he believes knows right from wrong, serves as that initial escape route or warning signal.
He even shares a bit about his own personal faith journey and includes a simple prayer for salvation. It seems like this spiritual dimension is really central to his overall message in the book.
It is indeed. He shares his personal belief in God and Jesus Christ, emphasizing the idea that God actively draws people to himself. He includes that model prayer for those who feel a pull towards embracing the Christian faith.
And he mentions conviction.
Interestingly, yeah. He mentions that experiencing feelings of anger or anxiety after considering this might actually be conviction, which he interprets as a positive sign of God's spirit at work. He also touches briefly on the concept of a spiritually starved woman, suggesting that a woman who hasn't accepted Jesus Christ might be unconsciously trying to fill a spiritual void with sexual pleasure, potentially leading to emptiness or depression. And in this context, he emphasizes the husband's role as a spiritual leader.
And for listeners who might be looking for a church community, he offers some guidance on that as well.
His advice is basically to seek out a spiritually vibrant church where you see evidence of lives being changed, maybe even miracles occurring. But he also cautions against overly legalistic environments that might lead to suppression rather than true spiritual growth. He emphasizes sound biblical teaching and the active use of spiritual gifts. But at the same time, he acknowledges no church or pastor is perfect.
So find what works for you.
Ultimately, he suggests the best church for an individual is one where they're experiencing genuine spiritual growth and getting the support they need without facing, undue financial burdens.
Okay, shifting gears a bit now to a more, let's say, universally applicable area. Let's talk about romance and setting the mood. This seems like something everyone can relate to.
Absolutely. The author defines romance as being about much more than just grand, sweeping gestures. He sees it as an overall attitude that encompasses thoughtfulness, a sense of fun and playfulness, tenderness, and creating a feeling of security.
An attitude, okay.
The key, he says, is to consistently bathe a woman's mind with these elements, but without coming across as overbearing or needy. He also wisely points out that different women have different preferences.
True.
So understanding your individual partner's desires and what makes her feel cherished is absolutely crucial.
He provides some really specific examples of things to say to a woman to help build that attraction and connection. What stood out to you in that list?
Several things resonated. He highlights the simple yet powerful act of complimenting her physical appearance, especially focusing on things she actively puts effort into, like her hair, her clothes, her perfume. It shows you're paying attention and appreciate her efforts.
Nice touch.
He also mentions asking about her day, but with a really important caveat.
What's that?
You need to be genuinely ready to listen to whatever she might share, and also be prepared to gently steer the conversation positively if it takes a negative turn.
Good boy.
He also suggests the powerful act of verbalizing what you're experiencing during intimacy, describing the sensations, the emotions you're feeling. And finally, he recommends building her up in front of other people with sincere compliments and praise. Apparently, this can significantly strengthen her positive feelings towards you.
And on the flip side, he also gives advice on things not to say or do that may hinder your sex life. Were there any particular red flags in that list?
Definitely a few that jumped out. Criticizing her appearance in any way, even if you think it's just a joke, major no-go. Bringing up past relationships or mentioning other women, even as she asks, strongly discouraged. It can breed insecurity and comparison.
Yeah, avoid that.
He also advises against dominating the conversation by talking excessively about yourself, correcting or embarrassing her in front of others, making assumptions about what she understands or wants, comparing her to anyone else, and dictating plans without discussion or input. Essentially, anything that introduces negativity, insecurity, or a feeling of being compared unfavorably should be actively avoided.
Now, this next chapter might raise a few eyebrows, but he dedicates an entire section to the often overlooked topic of personal hygiene. It's surprisingly comprehensive.
It is remarkably thorough. I mean, it covers the basics like regular dental checkups, flossing.
Standard stuff.
But then goes into more specific tips like remembering to brush your tongue, using mouthwash, even being mindful of tonsil stones affecting your breath.
Wow, detailed.
And proper nail care, grooming nose and ear hair, paying attention to areas that might become exposed during intimacy. Thoroughly cleaning your belly button, shaving tips for a smooth look, addressing blackheads, using lip conditioner, unscented lotion. He even clarifies the difference between antiperspirant and deodorant.
He really covers it all.
And strongly emphasizes wearing fresh underwear. It's a very detailed, sometimes almost humorous reminder of some fundamental grooming aspects that can really make a difference in intimate situations.
Definitely covers all the bases, and maybe some we hadn't even thought of. Okay, let's move on to a topic that I'm sure is on many people's minds. Penis size. Does the author offer his perspective on whether it really matters?
He does tackle this directly. He starts by acknowledging the common perception that size is important and concedes there can be extremes. Something excessively large could cause discomfort, while something significantly smaller might not provide the desired stimulation for some. But he quickly pivots to emphasize that size is actually quite relative. It depends significantly on the natural size and elasticity of the individual vaginal cavity.
Okay, so it's relative.
More importantly, he stresses that the firmness and quality of the erection are far more crucial for effective stimulation and overall satisfaction than sheer size.
Hardness over length.
Pretty much. He explains how the increased blood flow during arousal not only creates a more rigid erection, but can also make the penis feel subjectively larger and more powerful to both partners.
Interesting.
And for men who might be carrying some extra weight, he offers a rather compelling piece of motivation.
Oh, yeah.
He suggests that for every 35 pounds of fat lost, a man might potentially gain an inch or more in visible penis length.
That's certainly a thought-provoking incentive for some. Now, let's delve into a fascinating and perhaps less commonly discussed area, the 8 types of female orgasms. This sounds like it could be a real eye-opener.
It's quite an extensive list. He identifies clitoral, vaginal, anal, G-spot, thought, combination, multiple, and total body orgasms as distinct possibilities for women.
8 types. Wow.
But He immediately includes a crucial caveat. It's important not to have rigid expectations. Women's responses to sexual stimulation can vary enormously.
Right.
Some women may never experience certain types or even any orgasm from physical stimulation, while others might experience many. He also briefly mentions the importance of the pelvic floor muscles, the PC muscle, in a woman's ability to fully experience and enjoy sex. The key insight here is really the sheer diversity of female sexual response and the importance of open communication and exploration.
He gives a brief overview of each of these 8 types. What were some of the key distinctions or highlights that stood out?
Well, he makes the point that 5 of these clitoral, vaginal, G-spot, anal, and mind involve stimulating specific body areas.
Okay.
Interestingly, he notes both men and women can experience orgasms through thought alone, though a purely mind orgasm originates entirely from mental stimulation, no physical contact.
Mind orgasms, fascinating.
He also describes total body orgasms as this profound, electrifying sensation spreading throughout the entire body, often with involuntary muscle spasms and heightened overall sensitivity.
Let's dig a little deeper into some of the more commonly discussed types. The clitoral orgasm seems to get a lot of focus.
Rightfully so. The author emphasizes the incredibly high concentration of nerve endings in the clitoris, equal to or even greater than the nerve density in the head of a penis, he states.
Wow.
He explains its location and how it gets engorged with blood during arousal, leading to a wide range of sensations during orgasm, tingling, throbbing, pulsating feelings. He stresses there's no single right way to stimulate it and encourages experimentation, different types of touch, manual or oral, varying speeds, pressures, rhythms.
Experimentation is key.
Absolutely. He also reminds us the clitoris can be quite sensitive for some women and that mood and desire significantly influence responsiveness. He specifically mentions oral stimulation as valuable for many women.
And female ejaculation.
He addresses that too, underscoring it's a natural physiological response linked to intense pleasure and should never be viewed negatively or with shame.
Good point. And what about the G-spot in female ejaculation? That's another area often generating curiosity and sometimes misinformation.
The author describes the G-spot as this area of erectile tissue on the anterior or upper wall of the vagina, maybe an inch or two inside, surrounding the urethra.
Okay.
He explains that initial stimulation can sometimes feel like needing to urinate.
Right, I've heard that.
But if a woman can move past that, continued stimulation can lead to very intense pleasure and potentially the expulsion of a clear or milky fluid from the urethra, distinct from urine.
And how to find it.
He offers practical guidance. Using fingers, palm facing up, gently curling them upwards inside, applying firm rhythmic pressure, maybe pressing upwards until you feel the pubic bone.
Okay.
He also mentions penile stimulation can target it effectively, sometimes just a few inches of penetration at the right angle, a position is best. He recommends positions like the woman on her back, legs raised over her partner's shoulders,
Right.
as particularly effective for G-spot stimulation.
He also briefly touches on the possibilities of anal orgasms and mind orgasms for women.
For anal orgasms, his explanation is concise. The anus is richly supplied with nerve endings, and stimulation there can lead to orgasmic sensations in women. He also briefly mentions prostate stimulation leading to orgasm in men through anal contact.
But he doesn't recommend it.
It's worth noting, the author himself doesn't personally recommend anal intercourse in the book.
Okay. And mind orgasms.
Regarding mind orgasms, he explains they originate purely from thought and mental stimulation, often occurring unexpectedly without conscious physical effort, really highlighting the mind's significant role in our sexual experiences.
Okay, now we're getting into some really intriguing territory that I'm sure many listeners are curious about.
Yeah.
Crossing the threshold of unlimited sexual stamina. This definitely sounds like the holy grail for a lot of people.
He presents this as a very real and achievable goal, outlining several key factors that contribute to it.
Like what?
These include achieving a full, firm erection, learning the ability to orgasm without ejaculating, maintaining proper breathing, something he calls nerve buffering.
Nerve buffering.
Yeah. Ensuring your partner reaches orgasm first, actively strengthening the PC muscle, and cultivating confidence.
Let's break down some of those. Strengthening the PC muscle seems to be a recurring theme and sounds quite central to achieving this kind of stamina.
It is. The PC muscle, or pubococcygeus muscle, he explains, is the one that plays a key role in controlling both urine flow and ejaculation.
The Kegel muscle.
Exactly, same one. Strengthening it through targeted exercises, basically contracting the muscle you use to stop urine flow, can significantly improve stamina and help maintain a strong erection longer.
How does that work?
A well-developed PC muscle can even potentially give a man the ability to experience orgasm without actually releasing semen. He recommends incorporating PC exercises daily, gradually working up to many reps throughout the day.
And the importance of maintaining normal breathing during sex is also highlighted.
Absolutely. He specifically advises against holding your breath during sex and emphasizes maintaining normal, even somewhat heavy, breathing
Why is that?
to ensure the body gets enough oxygen, which is crucial for sustained energy and performance.
Now, this concept of nerve buffering sounds a bit more abstract. Can you shed some light on what the author means by that?
It is a more general concept, yeah. The author encourages a degree of personal experimentation here.
Okay.
The underlying principle seems to be about gradually reducing the acute sensitivity of the nerves in the penis, which helps delay ejaculation. He doesn't give super specific techniques, but suggests that through consistent practice of the other stamina methods, a degree of buffering naturally occurs.
He also recommends the strategy of bringing your partner to orgasm first. How does prioritizing her pleasure contribute to a man's ability to prolong his own stamina?
By focusing on ensuring your partner's satisfaction first, it can help take some of the performance anxiety and pressure off the man.
Reduces pressure.
Exactly. Plus, the physiological state after she's reached orgasm can sometimes offer a slight window of reduced sensitivity for him, potentially making it easier to maintain arousal without immediately ejaculating. He also suggests incorporating teasing techniques like partial insertion and withdrawal to build anticipation and further manage his own arousal level.
Now, the idea of achieving orgasm without ejaculation, that's something many men might find difficult to grasp or even believe possible. How does the author suggest accomplishing that?
He explains that through consistent, dedicated strengthening of the PC muscle, a man can learn to consciously control the muscles involved in ejaculation, to the point where he can experience the full physical and emotional sensations of orgasm without actually releasing semen.
Why would you want to do that?
He suggests ejaculation itself can be quite physically and energetically draining. Learning to have an orgasm without it can contribute to sustained erections and the potential for what he calls unlimited stamina. He introduces the idea of momentum in the ejaculatory process, suggesting that more intense, rapid stimulation builds greater momentum, making ejaculation harder to resist.
Okay.
Whereas gentler, slower stimulation might offer more control.
And he introduces a specific scale for defining levels of sexual arousal, from 1 to 5. How is that scale intended to be used for stamina control?
This scale, from erection without direct stimulation, level 1, all the way to actual ejaculatory spasms, level 5, is presented as a practical tool.
A tool for awareness.
Yeah, for a man to become more attuned to his body's signals and gauge when to actively engage his PC muscle control. He specifically identifies level 4, that distinct feeling ejaculation is imminent, as a critical point of awareness. He then describes 2 specific PC squeeze techniques based on this scale. PC squeeze type I involves recognizing level 4, consciously stopping stimulation until it subsides, repeating the cycle of buildup and backing off, and then, when you do reach level 5, actively squeezing the PC muscle to resist the urge.
And type 2.
PC squeeze type 2 involves intentionally bringing yourself right to the very edge of level 5, then stopping stimulation completely, partially withdrawing, and performing multiple rapid squeezes of the PC muscles to effectively buffer the nerve signals and delay ejaculation.
This definitely sounds like it requires a high degree of body awareness and practice. He then moves on to a technique called arching as another method for sustaining this zone of unlimited stamina. What's the core principle behind arching?
Arching is presented as a technique focused on consciously allowing sexual energy to flow through the entire body, rather than building up intensely in the penis to the point of inevitable ejaculation.
How did that work?
He uses this helpful analogy. Lightly touching highly sensitive areas like the lips or the roof of the mouth illustrates how even gentle stimulation creates a noticeable energy flow.
Okay.
The arching technique during sex involves incorporating gentle kissing and light touching of your partner's neck or other erogenous zones while intercourse is happening.
So, diverting energy.
The idea is that this dispersed stimulation helps dissipate some of the intense energy buildup in the genitals, thereby helping prevent premature ejaculation. If direct kissing isn't practical in certain positions, he even suggests lightly using your own tongue on the roof of your mouth for a similar effect of redirecting and dispersing energy. He uses the metaphor of standing on the edge of a cliff. Arching helps you stay in that pleasurable zone without jumping off prematurely by ejaculating. He reiterates that this, like the other techniques, requires experimentation and patience.
Interestingly, he also includes a section specifically for women titled A Woman's Guide to Her Man's Stamina. What kind of advice does he offer women here?
He starts by acknowledging that many men genuinely desire better stamina but might feel embarrassed or ashamed if they climax too quickly.
Hmm.
He suggests women can play a supportive role and tactfully guide their partners in using some of the stamina methods he discussed.
Oh, so?
For example, with the arching energy technique, a woman could specifically request, "Make love to my neck while you're making love to me."
Be direct.
Yeah. Similarly, for the pause and squeeze method, which seems like another name for the PC squeeze, she could gently encourage him to pause and squeeze if she senses he's approaching climax too rapidly.
Okay.
The key message for women is to be understanding and supportive, recognizing these techniques need a full, firm erection to work, and to avoid questions or comments that might undermine his confidence or create performance anxiety.
Now, he also goes into quite a bit of detail about female orgasm hindrances. It seems he's trying to address potential roadblocks preventing women from fully experiencing pleasure.
Yes, he provides a really comprehensive list of common factors that can hinder a woman's ability to orgasm.
Such as?
Physical factors like a full bladder or menstrual cramps. He discusses vaginal dryness in detail causes, solutions like lubricants, addressing underlying medical issues.
Okay.
He mentions enlarged labia minora causing discomfort, potentially needing surgical correction in some cases.
Yeah.
He emphasizes the huge impact of hindering thoughts, worry, guilt, anger.
The mental side again.
Big time. Physical issues like a misaligned spine affecting nerves, hormonal deficiencies impacting sex drive and orgasm ability. He points out the negative impact of anticipating some unrealistic grand finale orgasm.
Right. Focus on the journey.
Exactly. He even touches on digestive problems like constipation or gas, suggesting possible links to yeast or lactose intolerance, advising seeing a physician.
Wow.
Various infections, urinary tract, yeast, reproductive organs are mentioned as hindrances due to discomfort, pain, impact on mood and self-esteem. Offers general advice like cranberry juice for UTIs, but stresses needing professional medical advice. And finally, he circles back to hindering thoughts, reiterating their significant impact and the importance of actively freeing your mind to fully enjoy intimacy.
Following that detailed look at hindrances, he has a chapter specifically titled How to Have an Orgasm, aimed directly at women. What's his overall approach in this section?
He frames this chapter as offering a fresh, more holistic approach, emphasizing that while techniques matter, they're secondary to establishing the right foundation. Mind, body, spirit, emotions, desires, atmosphere.
A whole package.
Right. He highlights the mutually reinforcing link between a positive attitude and genuine desire, strongly advising against focusing on performance anxiety or external pressures. He stresses the vital importance of open, honest communication between partners about concerns, needs, preferences.
Communication is key.
Absolutely. He makes it clear there's no single, guaranteed formula for orgasm and encourages women to embrace creativity and self-discovery in exploring what brings them pleasure. He also touches on the common notion that men can sometimes be clueless about lovemaking and underscores the absolutely crucial role of adequate foreplay in a woman's sexual fulfillment, even suggesting women may need to take the initiative to guide and direct their partners in foreplay they find enjoyable.
He uses some really interesting analogies in this section to illustrate his points, like the fawn analogy and the bear cub analogy teaser. Can you explain those? The fawn analogy compares sexual pleasure to a shy, easily spooked fawn. Physical contact and intimacy are like the environment where the fawn feels safe enough to emerge.
Okay.
The idea is to truly experience pleasure, you need to approach it gently, patiently, creating a comfortable, secure environment of intimacy rather than aggressively pursuing it.
Gentle approach. Got it. And the bear cub.
The bear cub analogy, teaser, uses the image of a bear cub and honey. Pleasure is the honey. Teasing yourself or being teased to the very edge of orgasm is like the honeybee stings those intense moments of near climax. The eventual orgasm is like the bear cub uncontrollably grabbing the honeycomb, suggesting that intentionally delaying the final release can heighten the intensity and overall pleasure. It emphasizes control and building greater energy through strategic delay. And he also provides some specific techniques for clitoral stimulation and advice on body positioning during intercourse to enhance orgasm likelihood.
For clitoral stimulation, he suggests a range of techniques. Manual stimulation with fingers, thumb, palm, encouraging partners to use theirs. emphasizes experimenting with different movements, speeds, rhythms, pressures.
Find what works.
Acknowledging sensitivity can fluctuate with desire and other factors. For on-top positions during intercourse, he specifically recommends focusing on hip movement to create friction, stimulate the clitoris against the pubic bone.
Practical advice.
Suggests varying speed and depth, emphasizes using sufficient lubrication, encourages experimentation and consistency with movements that feel good, also advises taking short breaks during intercourse, continuing kissing, embracing to let nerve endings recuperate and maintain connection. Finally, he describes a wide range of ways orgasms can manifest subtle internal sensations to full-body spasms and involuntary movements.
The book then goes on to outline 7 phases to an unforgettable sexual experience. This sounds like a pretty comprehensive step-by-step guide.
It is designed as a complete roadmap, starting with mental prep, culminating in the afterglow. Phase 1, preparing your lover's mind, focuses on creating a mental atmosphere for desire, minimizing negativity, interruptions. Romance, again defined as that attitude. Thoughtfulness, fun, tenderness, security, specific examples of things to say, ask, provide it.
Okay, phase 1 clear.
Phase 2, building her desire, emphasizes kissing, light touching, teasing, bringing her to orgasm through non-coital means initially, always prioritizing communication, avoiding pressure about climaxing too early.
Foreplay focus.
Right. Phase 3, approaching the threshold, transitions to deeper intercourse combined with clitoral or G-spot stimulation, aiming for near ejaculation, presents different options. Gradually building desire or introducing surprise with emphasis on comfort consent. Suggests alternative positions too. Phase 4, crossing the threshold of unlimited stamina, refers back to those techniques for prolonging intercourse without ejaculating.
The stamina techniques.
Phase 5, satisfy her, focuses on continuing pleasure after resisting ejaculation. Suggests using lube, maybe changing locations, incorporating sensual activities, aiming for multiple orgasms for her, while being mindful of one's own physical limits.
Okay.
Phase 6, sustained and multiple orgasms for you, shifts focus to the man's enjoyment of the sustained experience without pressure to ejaculate.
Enjoying the zone.
Phase 7 is the big bang or total meltdown, the intense orgasm experience. Notes possibility of forceful ejaculation, continued full-body sensations afterwards.
And there's the secret phase 8.
Finally, yes, secret phase 8 highlights the profound importance of the aftermath, continued emotional and physical connection after sex as a powerful female aphrodisiac.
That really does sound like a complete journey. And then there are some bonus sections included at the end, starting with a hormone study.
Yes, this bonus section introduces the Swiss Rejuvenation Medical Clinic and their work on addressing aging effects through hormone replacement therapy, specifically HGH and testosterone.
Hormones, okay.
Discusses testosterone replacement for men, potential benefits for ED, low energy, mood, muscle mass. Mentions using HCG to prevent testicular atrophy. Explains recombinant HGH and its purported ability to reverse some aging aspects, improve sexual performance, treat various conditions.
But not all FDA approved.
Right. Notes not all uses are FDA approved in the U.S. Provides an overview of the clinic's program, evaluation, self-administration, focus on rejuvenation, disease treatment. Lists potential HGH benefits based on cited research, fat loss, muscle gain, energy, sexual function, etc. Finally includes 10 things to know about bodybuilding drugs, covering HGH testosterone, legal sources, risks of counterfeit products, importance of blood tests, legal use for optimizing levels under medical supervision, and FDA regulations on HGH.
There are also bonus sections covering dietary recommendations and workout routines.
The How to Eat and Lose Fat bonus outlines a lifestyle change for weight loss. 6-day specific eating, 1 free day with flexibility. Details key rules. Never skip breakfast. 3 meals, 2 snacks every 2-3 hours. Balanced portions, protein, carbs, fats, room temp water, or juice as carb sub. No soft drinks, sweet tea, junk food. Stop eating 3 hours before bed. Small protein snack, okay if needed.
That's a rule.
Provides guidelines for macros. Lists recommended protein sources, fish, poultry, carbs, veg, grains, fruit, fats, unsaturated preferred. Includes specific meal ideas, portion sizes, low glycemic fruit bag lists, snack options.
And the workout.
The workout bonus emphasizes the body's need for activity, benefits of exercise, suggests finding enjoyable activity twice a week for inactive folks, lists examples, introduces sprinting for fat burning with progression plan, includes weightlifting 101 terms, free weights, machines, reps, sets, and gym etiquette. Outlines a starters program, bench press, lat pull down, squat, etc. with rep ranges.
Then gets more advanced.
followed by detailed beginner, intermediate, and advanced workout schedules. Specifies exercises, sets, reps for different days, emphasizing proper form and progressive overload.
And finally, the book provides contact information and some additional book recommendations.
Yes, includes David Michaels' personal email for legitimate questions, publisher's email for complaints, mentions a website to purchase other books he recommends.
Well, that was a truly deep dive into the extensive material you shared with us. It's clear David Michaels put together a very comprehensive guide to sexual well-being, really emphasizing that intricate connection between mind, body, and even spirit.
Definitely covers a lot of ground.
We've covered a huge amount today, from very practical techniques for enhancing intimacy, understanding female orgasm complexities, to those more intriguing areas like achieving heightened sexual stamina, even exploring potential influences of hormones and lifestyle on our intimate experiences.
Absolutely. What particularly struck me were some of the more detailed aspects, like that step-by-step breakdown of the Swish pattern for reconditioning thought patterns.
Yeah, that was interesting.
The very specific guidance for clitoral and G-spot stimulation, and the quite detailed exploration into orgasm without ejaculation. The bonus info on hormone therapy also provided a unique perspective you don't always see.
And hopefully, we've been able to extract the most valuable insights from this wealth of information for you, our listener, providing a solid understanding of the key principles without, overwhelming you with too much detail.
Hope so.
I'm curious, what aspects of this deep dive resonated most with you? Are there specific areas you might be interested in exploring further on your own? Perhaps looking more into visualization techniques, delving deeper into female ejaculation nuances, or even researching the potential benefits and limitations of hormone therapy?
This exploration of your sources really underscores the author's strong belief in the power of the mind-body connection and the profound influence of our beliefs and attitudes.
Definitely a core theme.
So, as a final thought for you to consider, given everything we've discussed today, how might consciously cultivating a more positive, open, and accepting attitude towards yourself and your partner, how might that be the most significant and fundamental step you could take towards a more fulfilling and deeply connected intimate life?